Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I'm going to give you an update of my reading so far this month, and this includes some very dark underrated gems. Stay tuned. Okay, first off I'd like to start with a couple of very well-known novels that I wasn't particularly fond of, surprisingly. And the first one is Cell by Stephen King. Now, I've heard good things about this and bad things, and I got to say it started off with a bang. It was very bloody, very violent, very gory. This happened within the first few pages, and so the zombie apocalypse just happened straight away, and people were biting each other and going absolutely ballistic. I also found some of the survivors, the characters, really interesting. First of all, you got this graphic artist who's off to find his son, and he bands together with two other survivors at the beginning, and they got to get together and make it through this crazy new world. It's being overrun by these phonies. But what actually happens in Cell is that a pulse from a cell phone just turns them into these mindless zombies, stripping them of everything but the desire for murder. Now, what I found really interesting about this novel is that the zombies themselves start to evolve. They start to become something different, and they almost develop this kind of hive mind, the sort of psychic abilities. I'm not giving away too many spoilers here, and I found that very interesting at first. However, once I got more towards the middle of the story, it just became repetitive, it became a little bit dull, and it didn't seem like Stephen King knew where he was going. It was like he was just making stuff up as he went along. It's almost like things became completely implausible. And I know that sometimes with Stephen King, in fact most times with Stephen King, you need a suspension of disbelief. But this story became somewhat ridiculous. And it was, like I said, he was just trying to make stuff up as he went along. He didn't know where the end point of the story was. And that's another thing. Their ending was atrocious. Just cut off. And I just thought, really? Is that it? So look, if you're going to read a post-apocalyptic story by Stephen King, I would recommend The Stand and not The Cell. Okay everyone, second of all we have Mary Shelley Frankenstein. Now, I really wanted to love this literary classic because it's been recommended by so many people, but I got to be honest, I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I just didn't care for it so much. The basic outline of the story is that Victor Frankenstein almost becomes obsessed with knowledge and with science and his drive to create life, and that sort of estranges himself from the rest of his family and friends. And he succeeds. He creates his creature. But once he sees what he's created, he rejects the creature. Not a monster at this stage, but he rejects the creature and goes off to his room and lies down for 2 days. And that's a big problem that I have with Frankenstein, or one of them. Frankenstein really is a tale about morality, choice and consequence, and the ramifications for the creator, in this case Frankenstein, and for the creature. Now, the prose is beautiful. I really enjoyed her writing. It's very descriptive, but sometimes it does drag and it's overwordy, even in the face of other classics that I've really enjoyed. It is a very long, drawn-out story, and I think it's just a little bit overdone. Now, the one thing that I really did not like about the story was Frankenstein himself. I found him to be completely unlikable, selfish, and he really just got on my nerves. Once he turns away from this creature, his first big mistake, he keeps the reality of what he's done hidden from everyone else, even while everyone else is suffering. And I just think he's intolerable. He basically whines the whole time. Anything doesn't go his way, and really, every time he came up on the page, I just cringed. I did not enjoy this character. Frankenstein's creature, on the other hand, was far more sympathetic, and you really feel for him, being rejected by his maker, being rejected by society, and it's no wonder he became what he became. And I really think that if Frankenstein had just made better choices, I think things could have worked out differently. But obviously that's what makes this such a compelling story. Now, as I said, yeah, it was compelling. There was a lot to love here, but not enough to give it more than 3 stars on Goodreads. That is Frankenstein. Next up, we have a seriously underrated gem, first of 3, and that is J.R. Carell's More Than a Vampire. Now, this story, although not amazingly written, the prose is not that much to shout home about, but the story itself is absolutely gripping. Or awesome adventure love story. You have basically this vampire. There are 4 clans, and this vampire is a hunter of these rogue vampires, and he's very good at his job. And he falls in love with a vampire from another clan. So it's almost like this forbidden love, star-crossed lovers, and they try to find a way to be together. Now, as I said, this is action-packed, and as I struggled in the first 20 pages to get used to the writing, once I got into the story, I read it in one sitting. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and therefore I gave it 5 stars. Although, with the writing, it could have been 4 stars, but just it's a story that just gripped me. And he brings in myths and monsters, and he brings in all sorts of strange creatures and shapeshifters. So it's a real swashbuckling adventure, and lots of action, lots of violence, and I just thoroughly enjoyed myself. So I really recommend this book, and I recommend that you look up this particular author. Next up, we have another underrated gem, which is The Harl by David Sodergren. Now, this is a story about a rich American property developer who goes to a small Scottish seaside village and wants to turn the village into a golf estate. And basically he buys a lot of people away, buys them off, and there's a couple of older people that are standing firm against him, including this 84-year-old woman. This is a fantastic horror story. There's a lot of body horror. This is how body horror, in my opinion, should be done, unlike The Troop. It's just a seriously horror story, but with heart as well. Now, one of my favorite characters from this novel is an 84-year-old hardcore badass woman named Muriel, who basically fights with everything she's got against these developers. This is the home she grew up in. She refuses to leave no matter what they do, and she gets help from the strangest of places when this mist rolls in. Now, this is a very, very exciting story. It's like a folk horror tale. As I say, there's a lot of blood and gore, but the story's got a lot of heart and soul in it as well, and it's very, very readable. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but it could have been 5, and it's got excellent reviews, so I encourage you to check out this author. I know he's written a number of other novels. I'm looking forward to finding out more about him. That is The Harl. And finally, we come to another underrated gem written by Rod Gilly, called The Hero, the Fear, and the Date. Now, this is a very, very short book of 3 short stories that you could probably finish in under an hour. I did. And they are all very, very thrilling and kind of gut-punching stories with a twist at the end that really gets to you. And one thing I can say about this author is that it is very, very difficult to write in the shortest form. It takes a great deal of skill and control, and he shows plenty of that in this book. I wouldn't call it a novel, it's a short story collection, but really each short story is about 10 pages max. My favourite was definitely The Hero, the first one, and without giving anything away, it's about ex-policeman, ex-detective or policeman, and he tries to play hero when there's a female in distress, and things don't work out the way he wants them to. Now, there is quite a lot of gore in this book as well. It's really, really surprising, really, like in such a short piece of work. There's a lot of gore and violence, and wow, it really hits you in the guts, like I say. The other one I really like is A Date, and that is basically a wild date that goes completely wrong. So as I say, this is an excellent author. I know that he's coming up with a novella. I'm not sure when, and I think he's trying to write a novel by the end of next year. I'm really looking forward to reading more of him, and I would recommend that you give him a chance. I know that he's free on Kindle Unlimited, so there's no harm in just going in there and having a look. In fact, all three of these final authors that I've spoken about, they're really worth a look and worth your time. Okay everyone, those are the 5 books I've read so far in the month of June. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and please leave a comment down in the spaces below. Let me know if you've read any of these stories. Let me know what you thought of my reviews, and be sure to take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.